Hey folks, I'm Gail Wolf, and this video is how to care for your frequency board. So a frequency board is a cutting board that has healing frequencies within it. So this is looks like a normal cutting board. You flip it over, we've got this ring that's epoxied in. What's inside here is a copper ring that is spun together and looped together at a very specific dimension. And the bigger the dimension, the different frequency that comes forward. However, this is not a video about frequency boards. This is a video about how to care for the frequency boards. If you're interested in learning more about frequency boards, the frequencies that I produce and that you can purchase, go to another video which is called About Frequency Boards. And on that video, I'll have ways that you can use it, different frequencies, what those frequencies are for, and how they can improve your health and improve your life. So for this video, as I said, it's about how to care for your frequency board. So before we get going with that, I'd like to start by saying a couple of don'ts. So the first thing is, do not put your frequency board into a dishwasher. This is going to soak your board, this is going to saturate it, and it's going to ruin the finish of the board much quicker than it needs to be challenged. And so the first thing is, don't put it in a dishwasher. The second thing is, don't cut meat on a frequency board. And these two rules of thumb really have more to do with any wooden cutting board. One of the reasons for the meat is that meat has different bacteria and different enzymes in it, and wood has got different pores and it's more porous. And so the juices from the meat oftentimes will get down inside those pores, and you'll end up with some bacteria inside, and then you end up having to disinfect your board, and the board tends to smell, and so it's not the best thing to cut meat on a wooden cutting board. It's best to use plastic or Teflon. So that being said, let's get going with how to care for the board. So as I said, wooden cutting boards have got pores within them, or they're porous. And so even the juices from your fruits, from your vegetables, and anything that you cut on the cutting board is going to get down inside. Over months, years, however long, a lot of cutting boards tend to start to stink just a little bit. This one's not too bad. However, I have worked with some cutting boards before that really do start to stink. So if you have a cutting board that starts to stink a little bit, or it's been a while since you've done what I'm about to suggest, it's a good idea to disinfect it. However, you don't want to use spray or chemicals or that kind of thing. The whole idea here is to be healthy. That's the whole emphasis of these cutting boards, is to be healthier, to have more high vibe food, and improve the energy of the space that you're working in. So the first thing is, when you want to disinfect the board, is use something natural. And so I found a number of ways to do this. The best way that I have found so far, using just simple household items that you'll have in your kitchen, is the first thing you'll need is a part of a lemon and just some coarse salt. So the first thing you do, and I'm going to rotate the camera here so you can see what I'm up to. So you can see the board flat against the table. So if you look at this particular board, I know the light isn't showing it very well, but if you look at this board, the surface is a little bit worn. The color is not as bright, it's not as brilliant, and you're starting to see like a lot of the cut marks. It's starting to look has a little bit of that worn look to it. And so that's always an indication that it's time to put a little oil or a little disinfectant into your board. So the first thing to do is take some coarse salt and spread it out on your board, just like so. It doesn't take a lot, but just do it till you've got a number of grains that are standing out against the board, like so. There we go. The next part, this is super easy. Just take your lemon, squeeze a little bit of that lemon juice on the board like so. Then you take the lemon itself and you work the juice and the salt into the board. And what happens is lemon juice is a little bit acidic and salt is antimicrobial. And so it makes a great disinfectant. And when you combine the two of them together, they kill virtually everything that could ever infect your board. And so you just rub that in there. You let the lemon juice dissolve the salt. You let the coarseness of the salt kind of work its way into the board a little bit. And you literally use this half a lemon as like a scrub brush. You just go around, you make these little circles. And I generally will do this until most or all of the salt is completely dissolved, or at least a good 3/4 of it. See, right now, all this juice on here is somewhat acidic, and it also has the antimicrobial products or qualities of the salt. Just like this. And so what I normally do then is I let the board sit for about 2 to 3 hours and let the disinfectant do its thing. All right, so some time has passed, 2 or 3 hours or so. The board has had some time to dry after being scrubbed down with the lemon and the salt. So now it's time to oil the board. So there's a lot of different products that you can buy for this. Most cutting boards are first finished with a mineral oil and then beeswax is rubbed into it after that. That is the normal process that cutting boards go through in order to be prepped for cutting food on them. So over time though, after using the board for a while, some of those oils start to get pulled out of the board. Sometime after a while, the wood starts to get a little bit wet, a little bit worn. And so it's good to re-oil the board to keep that fresh look, as well as create a nice long life for your board. So what I'm gonna demonstrate today is using simple household items found around the kitchen. So coconut oil is an amazing oil for using on the cutting board for 2 reasons. Number one, it's not very expensive. Most people have this in their kitchen, and if you don't, it's a healthy thing to have in your kitchen for many, many, many reasons. There are so many benefits to coconut oil, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, do a little bit of research online. You'll find tons of benefits, healthy benefits for coconut oil. The other thing is that coconut oil is also antimicrobial, which means it kills germs, and it is great for also maintaining a disinfected cutting board. So in order to do this, it's quite simple. Take a little bit of your coconut oil, and if it's in a solid form, you just take a couple of, dig your fingers into the coconut oil, put a little chunk of it right there on your board, and if it's in a liquid form, you can always just pour a little bit on there, a little puddle, and then you just work it in. So the best way is you just take your towel, and again, do little circular motions. Just keep working the coconut oil into the pores of the board. Nice circular motions like this. And one of the benefits of doing a circular motion is that every time it goes in a circle, you go against the grain as well as with the grain. And so what it does is it takes that coconut oil and it pushes it down into the board and almost forces it into the grain a little bit, which is really what you want. Making sure you get the sides a little bit. and you just go through the whole board. And this board, I can tell it's been needing this because it is soaking up the oil like crazy, which is a sign that it might have been just a little bit overdue. So I'm gonna pause right here so you can kind of get a visual of how different that looks. Over the course of the next 2 or 3 hours, we'll let this board sit again and let the oil seep down into the board. Let the board take in the oil. And after 2 or 3 hours, you'll come back to it and it'll be almost dry to the touch. And if it's not, you can let it sit a little bit longer. Those wood pores will continue to draw the oil down into it. And then after it's sat for a handful of hours, like I said, 2 or 3, or you can let it sit overnight. If there's anything that is still sitting on top of the board in terms of oil, you can just wipe it down with a rag and you're done and you're ready to go. So that is the best way to disinfect your board and to re-oil your board and take care of your board. And so I recommend doing a disinfecting about once a month, and I recommend doing an oiling about every 2 months. And the other thing about cutting boards is to, when you're washing them, just use warm water, a soft, non-abrasive brush, and some soap. And the other thing is, don't let your cutting board sit in the sink. By taking your cutting board and letting it sit in the sink and just soak in the water, it's not good for it. It gets waterlogged and you do not want to do that. So don't leave your cutting board sitting in the sink. So if you want to learn a little bit more about frequency boards and what this frequency can do for your life and what this does for your food, like I said, check out my other video on about frequency boards. And I also do a number of other home products. I do desks, I do tables, do chairs, I do custom countertops and so forth that include frequency. In other words, the woodworking that I do, you can put into your home to raise the vibration of your home, to change the energy of your space, to have your furniture essentially give you energy back. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more helpful videos, more information, and more healthy tips for around the house. Until next time, take care.